Welcome to GOT. Today we're going to talk about the 6.2 versus the 6.7 on the iPhone and the Pixel 8. Why do they make them so different? So we're going to get into some of the stats, the difference between the two sizes of phones. Are people with smaller hands being left out in technology? Or does Apple and Pixel know something the rest of us don't know, like people with smaller hands don't care for great technology? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So let's take a closer look between the 6.2 and the 6.7 inch phones. Are you really missing out by not going for the larger phone? So we're going to start out looking at the differences between the iPhone 15 Max and the iPhone 15. So just to simplify things, I'm going to call it the Pro Max versus just the 15. So we've got the Pro Max here is a 6.7 and the 15 is a 6.1. So there's the main differences, of course, in size. And then this year, Apple went ahead and put the island in both of them. So that's kind of nice. So kind of equalize things there a little bit. They do both have the main shooter, a 48 megapixel. Now here's where there's a big difference is with the RAM. The Pro Max, of course, has 8 gigs of RAM, and the iPhone 15 just has 6. So there's going to be a difference in performance. And then, of course, the battery size. You get a much larger battery on a much larger phone, so you may get more life. However, you have a larger screen now that's draining battery, so it kind of evens out. But from what I'm hearing, you do get more life out of the Max sizes. That's it about the display. They're both pretty evenly matched with the 2000 nits maximum brightness. However, when it gets down to refresh rate, they don't even list it on the iPhone 15. Maybe they're ashamed of it or something, but on the Pro Max, it has the 120 refresh rate, and it'll jump from 1 to 120 depending on what you're using to help save battery. On the iPhone 15, it just has a standard 60 hertz refresh rate. I don't know what's going on with Apple there. They're way behind the times on screen refresh rate. So you do miss out there. And if all you've ever used is the smaller phone, you may not miss it until you've tried something with the higher refresh rate. So you Apple users that are using the small phone, don't touch a higher refresh rate because you'll then know what you're missing. The next major difference between the Pro Max and the iPhone 15 is the cameras. The iPhone Pro Max has an additional camera. It has the zoom, which is a 5x zoom, which the iPhone 15 does not. However, something that they didn't talk about and most may not have noticed, the iPhone 15 Pro or the Pro Max has the 48 megapixel main camera, but it only has an f-stop of 1.8. This is the amount of light it allows in for clearer picture. But the iPhone 15 has a 1.6 f-stop, so it allows more light. Now its lens is not as wide as the 15 Pro, where the 15 Pro is a 24 millimeter wide, the 15 is a 26 millimeter wide. Now those that aren't all that techie, that's not going to make a whole lot of difference to you. The main thing that you're going to see here is that the iPhone 15 will allow in more light. So in theory or on paper, it should take better pictures, better photos, allowing more light in with the main shooter. However, with software and such, that may not be the case. Now there's also the USB-C difference on the iPhone 15 Max versus the iPhone Standard. The iPhone Standard has a USB-C 2.0, which is slower charging and slower data transfer rate. It's about as slow as their previous cable system versus the newer Mac Pro Max. It has the 3.0 USB-C, so it has much faster. It'll do up to 10 gigs versus 480 megabytes on the 15. So the biggest difference between the Pro Max and the standard iPhone is going to be the processor. The Pro Max has the 17 or the Bionic 17, where the standard has the Bionic 16. It has last year's model. Maybe they souped it up or a little bit to make it a little faster. However, there you have it. The standard does not get the latest and greatest processor. And then lastly, what you don't see in a spec sheet is they put a lot more software, a lot more performance in the Pro models, giving them that greater edge over the standard model. Now let me know if you actually happen to be a small hand or a smaller phone user, because people with big hands could use the small phones too because they like it a little better, fits It's a better fit in the pocket. Let me know if you feel like you're losing out, because I know my wife, she uses a smaller iPhone and she doesn't feel like she's missing out because she's not that much of a camera buff, so she's not worried about the extra camera and the extra features or even the extra speed. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about the smaller phone versus the larger phone and the features and benefits? So now moving on to the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro. Let's check out the differences. Now, Google did a little differently with the Pixels versus Apple. They've only got one size of each, so there's not as much confusion. But let's see if there's as much separation between the two models. So looking here at the spec sheet, of course, you have the 6.2-inch Pixel 8 versus the 8 Pro, which is a 6.7. So again, not quite as much of a size difference, but there is a noticeable difference. So looking at the two screens, they both get the same 120 hertz refresh rate. Okay, they didn't go down Apple's road. Pixel 8 actually gets the 120 hertz refresh rate, as well as the Pixel 8 Pro. There is one slight difference though. The Pixel 8 Pro can go, again, like the iPhone 15 Pro, from 1 hertz all the way up to 120, depending on what you're doing. And that helps save battery life, where the Pixel 8, it could still move. It goes from 60 to 120 hertz. So you have the standard 60, which is what the iPhone standard is stuck with, but at least the Pixel 8 can still go to the 120 refresh rate. So the Pixel 8 goes to the 2000 nits brightness, just like the iPhones do, the both Pro and the standard. However, when you get to the Pixel 8, now you got a real Pro feature. It goes up to 2400 nits in brightness. That's a bright phone. Now moving on to the cameras for the Pixel 8, the same thing goes on here, where they add the third camera, which is a zoom on the Pixel 8 Pro. So the Pixel 8 Pro, again, has that 5x zoom, just like the iPhone Pro does, or the Pro Max. And then the difference is, on the main camera are not there. Both of them have the identical camera on the Pixel 8. They both have a 50 megapixel with an f-stop of 1.7 and 25 millimeter wide lens. And again, like the iPhone, the Pixel 8 versus the Pixel 8 Pro, there is a battery size difference. Whether that makes a lot of difference or not in usage, we don't know, because the larger screen, the larger juice it's going to use versus the smaller screen. And then, of course, the software optimization or performance, there's a little bit of difference. So they may equalize. We'll have to find out in time. Now, on the Pixel 8, the USB-Cs are the same. They both have the 3.0 USB-C for faster data transfer. So both the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro having the same USB-C, you don't get penalized, and you don't have to pay extra to bump up to the faster speeds like you do on the iPhone. And then lastly, here on the Pixels, there's a little bit more features on the Pro model than the standard model, but that makes sense because it is a Pro model. It has more features. They don't separate it with something in between like Apple does, having a Pro standard versus a Pro Max, and there's different features. So on the Pixel, it's black and white. You either have the standard or you have the Pro with all the additional features. On the Apple side, you have to decide, well, which features does that standard size Pro have versus the Max? It could get really confusing. So if you want to be straightforward, Pixel is the way to go. So in review, there are quite a few differences between the smaller size and the larger size. You do get a lot more professional features in the larger phone on the Pixel 8, just as you do on the iPhone. But as far as a standard size phone, if you go with the basic iPhone, which is what I would call it with the iPhone 15, you do lose a lot of features. So to get the most features for a smaller phone, you have to go with the iPhone Pro, but they do make a smaller hand version, which is nice. And then on the Pixel 8 side of it, if you get the standard model, it still has a lot of the same features at the iPhone Pro. That'll be something to compare next, is the Pixel 8 versus the iPhone Pro standard size. I think we'll find that they're really close. The only thing that really separates is the zoom camera. Pixel 8 and the 8 Pro, it's black and white, plain and simple. You get the standard model, you get the Pro model, which is a little larger. So if you want the Pro features, you have to go with the larger phone. Sorry, they don't have a smaller option. That's it for this video. Thank you for hanging with me. If you've never compared Pro versus Standard, you've got to try it. Have a wonderful day. God bless.